Hi and welcome to today's webinar. Today's date is 24th of February. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Barie Hasib. I am the Managing Director of BIMREC. BIMREC are described by our clients as an essential BIM recruitment partner. We're really passionate about adding value to the marketplace, helping you guys, whether you're clients, candidates, or the market in general. Our goal is to really help you guys win with BIM. We are joined today by Peter Trebilcock. Peter is the Director of BIM for Balfour BT Construction Services. He also leads the BIM Centre of Excellence team. He's presenting today on discovering the benefits for BIM for clients, designers, contractors and the supply chain. Again, if anybody has any problems at all throughout the webinar with sound, these things can happen. Please don't hesitate to just put a comment in the box there. I will be watching the box throughout this presentation. For those of you watching this video back via YouTube or via our website or any other channels, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email us at webinars@bimrec.com. That's webinars@bimrec.com, BIMREC.com. With that said, over to you, Peter.
Okay, well, thank you, Barry. Thanks for the opportunity. By way of a kind of analogy in this BIM journey, I was trying to remember when email first became widely adopted. It must have been something in the 70s, I suppose, mid to late 70s. No, sorry, probably later than that. But anyway, there was those who spoke about email and how beneficial it was and what you could do, but it was really only when people had email themselves, had the computer, had the email account, were able to send emails, personalize them, send attachments, open attachments, so forth, that they of course saw the benefit. And for those who are email literate will never look back. And I think BIM has a similar journey to take. There are those that talk about it a lot, those that are engaged, those that see it and observe it, but those who actually are engaged very personally, seeing what it can do for themselves, that really make the difference to levering the benefits. So today's webinar is all about how to lever the benefits, that there are benefits for every sector, for every discipline, every function, everyone involved. There is some skin in the game that they have to give, some actions, and the message with the facts and figures and the case studies that we'll quote from will show that it's worth it. So I'm going to give an overview of some of the benefits of building information modeling. Now you could call it the use of the digital tool sets, because what I'm saying applies to linear assets like roads and rail projects, bridges and tunnels, just as much as it applies to buildings. And the benefits can be accrued not only if the client has dictated it as a contractual requirement, but also if the project team decide to adopt it. I'll be talking about the benefits available for those different organizations, including clients, contractors, consultants, talking about the different roles in the consultants and how they lever the benefits, and then some of the roles on the construction project, a typical construction project, and what's in it for the main parties. In the time that we have, the next 40 minutes or so, we won't go into detail of every single role, but those will be available on the slide set for you to interrogate, and I welcome your feedback. In terms of defining building information modeling, let's call it a delivery methodology using a digital tool set to do so many things: visualize, collaborate, simulate, optimize, and integrate a data set where relevant. The next slide you probably ought to see in many BIM presentations is the Hollywood height chart. Why on earth am I showing pictures of these actors in this presentation? Well, if you look closely, each one of these is not only famous, you could probably name them all, but their names are at the bottom with their heights, but they're all multimillionaires because they are good actors. And irrespective of height, if you're good at your job, you can lever the benefits. And with building information modelling, if you've got the right protocols, training, software and the tools in place, you can lever the benefits irrespective of project size. We've seen benefits on a £100,000 office fit out as we have on a £500 million airport project. It's not just for the big complex projects, it can apply across the piece. So in summary, the message overall is that building information modelling, applying these tool sets, can apply to any sector, from nuclear to health, from leisure to industrial, and it can apply to any part of the project life cycle, from work winning, tender period to operations and maintenance, any project size, and any discipline, whether you're the architect, the project manager, site manager, planner, or so forth. As a business, we've identified 60 benefits of utilizing building information modeling, half of which are available for our clients, whether you define the client as owner-investor, user-occupier, or those that maintain the facility after completion. A moment or two on clients and their interest. We have currently 72 live BIM projects, and we work for a number of clients. And whilst the tool set might be generically consistent, the application and the focus from our clients can be very different, from that of nuclear decommissioning to a view of Crossrail, to that of a commercial client, to those in the education sector or involved in hospital projects. The tool sets can apply to every sector, but our experience is that clients focus on particular aspects of utilizing the tool sets to meet their particular business needs. We have listed 70 applications of the digital tool sets are all revolving, around clarity of communication, to embedding cost information or linking it with schedule of areas, to the data provision, to those commonly utilized tools such as clash detection in the design, to a whole host of other aspects, BIM for safety, showing residual risks in the models for all the team to see, to using the models to simulate sequences, operations, or design analysis, and so forth. A vast array of tools offering a whole suite of benefits and advantages to the team. Of course, utilizing the integrated information that comes from the creation of the model set, which provides the data, whether it's a wall or a window or a roof type, services system, and so forth, giving you, as a popular phrase in the BIM world, a single source of truth. Now at this point, I don't know if Barie can take the controls and show you an animation that demonstrates how BIM can be used to simulate a whole host of.
I certainly can. You're going to have to pass controls over to me quickly, Peter. So there you go, Peter.
Barie is playing. Okay. And I hope it's moving in the background. Array of images which should be moving.
They are.
We've used simulation to highlight the pouring of concrete, the erection of steel frames. We've used to simulate the installation of modular bits of kit through limited apertures, through demolition sequences of railway arches and an old station, to the construction of new office buildings or hotel, or to the movement of equipment. In the bottom right, small animation showing how equipment and how areas can be easily accessible for maintenance and operations. So we've used simulating the integration of temporary works, what temporary works are needed to install an escalator in the difficult situation to other aspects of construction and achieving digital sign-off. That's all I really wanted to say on that score. I think everybody's familiar with the common term of 4D, utilising that, but we're blessed with a set of tools that can simulate virtually anything. So, Barie?
With that said, I can pass this back to you, Peter. Thanks everyone for your patience.
Right. Okay, so imagine that you're a Formula One driver. Wouldn't that be nice? But whatever your role is as that driver, whether you're the project manager, the design manager, or so forth, that you're supported with a highly trained and organised team, each of whom know the role that they're playing on the project, i.e. the race, and they have the tools, the equipment, the training, and the motivation to make their contribution to a successful outcome. And imagine BIM in that sense, that each of you has access to a set of tools that you can use to deliver the benefits. Briefly, I'd like to quote some statistics from our project, some of our projects. Last year we did a survey. I don't know why it's moving now, but we asked them, tell us how BIM is for you. Is it helping to leave a success? And basically we find that the requests for information are fewer. There are fewer clashes on site. Has BIM helped to reduce cost? A third of our team said yes, and when they were asked to quantify it, they could quote examples that range from £8,000 to £10 million on a project. Could it help reduce the program? Almost a third said yep, between 2 weeks and 10 weeks, and since then we've had a project that's saved 3.5 months in time. 100% of the team said it helped reduce risk and improve design coordination and added value with clash detection, and almost 9 out of 10 said it helped improve efficiency. I've got a mouse that's going around. I don't know whether, Barie, that's yours. But basically then, so we're seeing real tangible benefits across the piece of our BIM projects, and of course utilising the data that you gather from early stage to completion and operation, armed with the right protocols and standards and training in place, optimises those benefits through the whole life of the asset. So now we'll talk about some of the particular benefits relevant to the organisation types. So let's take the client. And I'm not going to go through line by line every bullet point on these slides, but you can take them and read them and comment on them. But what benefits do our clients see in summary? I have to say that where the clients are engaged, they have a greater confidence in the team and the outturn quality. Those that are engaged, it's easier for them to go through their approval process, and it makes that approval process slicker. They utilize the data to aid their life cycle planning, and it helps reduce their facilities and management costs. But for the client's point of view, looking at the action column, they need to understand what BIM is, and often we, like many of you, help your clients to understand what BIM is and how to lever the benefits, to get a building BIM execution plan in place with the goals. And I find the two missing links for most of the clients that we have dealt with, who understand that they need to perhaps comply with a government requirement because they're public sector based, and they ought to specify the need for COBE level 2. We ask them to define their list of assets and the technical data that they need alongside each of those assets. That's a missing link for many of our clients, and that's where their biggest piece of work comes, in my experience. Moving on, so we have client testimonials saying that BIM is and helps us deliver a more efficient piece of design and delivery. and it's a key enabler for improvements across their business. It helps their heads of academies understand how a building will operate, helps them with curriculum planning. This is nothing to do with clash detection or sequencing, but it's helping the client meet their business needs. And of course, we can provide the information to do with the assets. This shows you a typical sort of a plant room, one of the schemes we're delivering, highlighting the Grundfos pump with some of the data that the client needs. And this particular client asked that we transfer the data directly into their current facilities management software package. So we can provide the data into a range of software packages, whether via COBE or some other means. So going on now to look at a consultant as a generic, if you like, type, a designer. For those designers that I've spoken to who have now wear the BIM t-shirt, shall I say, they all say that they can do their work with less staff. There's increased efficiency. There's also the increased quality of integrating the schedule of accommodation and other schedules such as furniture, fittings and equipment schedules linked directly to this single source of truth. Helps with the integration of other people's work, coordination. Obviously they need to be trained in the right software, and there's a cultural need for them to be willing to share the models and collaborate throughout the process, even when the design is in progress and not complete. But that helps everybody within their own BIM plan of work. So design reviews, if you change one window, it changes it in elevation, in section, in plan and so forth. Integrated schedules, flash detection, access through the BIM model to analysis packages, be they SUMPATH, airflow, dynamics and so forth. Moving on to the main contractor. How do we summarize what Balfour Beatty getting out of it? Well, I've quoted reduce risk, better coordination and integration. We can highlight the scope packages for our subcontractors, do color coding the models. It helps us to make better informed decisions, which ultimately leads to quicker projects with fewer errors and reduced cost. Of course, we need leadership in place to understand the benefits, to be able to provide the training and support, the investment necessary, but we have the protocols in place, internal expertise to help the group move forward, and we have communications in place to share the benefits and the learning. So one of our projects, Heathrow Airport, we use it to help with our construction methodologies, with our 6-week look-ahead meetings, design coordination, including subcontractors and supply chain. We use site devices to capture the data, so the field operatives had something in their hand that had drawings and specs and so forth, as well as the key data that was required. Moving on to manufacturers. For those manufacturers I've spoken to, of course they get increased product awareness as their products are made available, whether through their website or through some other portal, and the ability they have to integrate their components into the proposed design and construction. So it's not just a generic type, it becomes at the right stage a particular type. Of course that assists the owner with ab-builts and FM information. But in order to do that, they've got to be able to create their own products, make their library available, and the industry is now adopting the use of product data templates, which will provide a consistent set of data that will link through COBE and into the models. So an increasing number of suppliers are entering into this space and providing excellent array of information and data to go with their products. Just to quote one or two, Crane, they launched back in November 2013, and mid last year they reported on thousands of downloads on an international basis, helping to get their product across the marketplace by providing their digital equivalents available. Various manufacturers, Metsec or Target, just to name a couple, providing BIM models and providing the data that goes alongside it. So from the subcontractor, Those that have adopted it, I've spoken to, means for them that they solve the interface issues before they get to site, and it means fewer visits to site, less rework, which to them adds value and reduces cost. Of course, they've got to buy some software, they've got to train their staff and be able to integrate the models with the designers and the rest of the team in their engagement process. Here's one little subcontractor that used BIM in an interesting way. They were a piling subcontractor. It's actually Balfour Beatty Ground Engineering. This is their kit on the left. It's 3 meters wide and quite tall, and they had to pass through a retained facade, 4 meter wide aperture. Well, this particular exercise would normally take 3 to 4 weeks. Their technician went to site armed with a BIM model of the retained facade and the supporting steelwork, and the BIM model of their kit, simulated how they would gain access to that site through a limited aperture, and the BIM model showed, if you look at the diagram on the left, how the clash of the counterweights. So they removed the counterweights and they took the top boom off the kit. That exercise alone saved 3 weeks setup time. So nothing to do with clash detection or data management, but an innovative use of the digital tool set for a ground engineering contractor. So we have other supply chain contractors that getting into the game, whether they're an SFS contractor, applying their light framing to a school elevation, sorting out the interfaces, agreeing where the mattresses will go that will support the radiators, and then rolling out their work across the rest of the building. And for FM operators, who I think are probably the least engaged, which is sad to say in the world of BIM, but to them we can reduce their staff costs during the soft landings and handover process because they get the data electronically and virtually instantaneously to save the clipboard and surveying mentality that is used in the traditional process of assessing what assets they're going to be taking over. It's reduced time in cataloguing the assets, and yes, it requires them to become familiar with BIM, to be able to read and search the BIM models, and to translate the information into their CAFM package, giving them access to 3D as-built to help them with a life cycle and portfolio management. A brief case study: £60 million highly complex laboratory building in Manchester, very highly serviced, so each service package was colour-coded as to whether it's a boiler, flue, exhaust and so forth. This particular drawing shows two aspects. One is the red represented those items that were in manufacture in the States, and so it highlighted that, you know, if you wanted to change them or reposition them once in manufacture, it would be extremely costly. And the second issue is the team spotted some heavy plant straddling a movement joint that hadn't been picked up through the drawing review. They managed to move the plant electronically, virtually, and sort out the interfaces and connection problems. If they hadn't have done that before getting to site, it would have cost them £30,000 installation rework. The same scheme, this shows the designer's model of the plant room, the plant over the laboratory space. The designers then took that to the installers. The installers took that model, created their manufacturing model, the same kit, which was made in the factory and produced. So a great link, great story of that single source of truth using the same software, the same data from design to construction. Now just to quickly run through some consultant roles. Most architects I've spoken to, they will never change from adopting BIM because of the increased efficiencies it gives them. They can do the same job with a higher confidence of production quality with fewer resources, either enabling reduced fee for competition or offering the client added value more for the same fee. But of course they need to ensure the staff are trained, they understand the digital plan of work and the level of detail, and the scopes need to be defined. But of course the beauty of producing the information is from that same output, so the same native model, you get numerous outputs, be they 3D, 2D, schedules, or data. For the MEP consultant, there's the opportunity for them to integrate and coordinate their own plant equipment and create their own components. But of course, they have to be familiar with the software and hardware. And I think for many MEP consultants, that willingness to enter the 3D environment early. We can discuss and debate that perhaps later. But we see a reluctance on some M&E consultants because they believe that their work might be wasted or ignored by the time an M&E installer comes along. But they can create their own components with the right data and integrate them within the rest of the model set. Civil and structural engineers have been using the digital tool set for many years. So I think their ability to be able to design in 3D and to link that software directly with the fabricator's work is well established. But of course they have to get their scopes defined and agreed. They have to become familiar with the past standards and level of detail too. And we're using, through engineering, bridges, tunnels, roads, and so forth. Many fabricators designing 3D, it's the way that they work, and we can superimpose their work on the consultant's model to check for quality. Quantity surveyors. Perhaps the last of the consultant breed to join the BIM party. But we all know, if we don't know, there are many packages available that can reduce significantly the time to measure quantities. The story of a M&E package that was given to a QS and given to a graduate, and they were both asked to provide the price. The sage old QS came back 3 weeks later with the price. The graduate used the BIM model, and he came back with a price an hour and a half later, and the prices were the same. The digital tool set can take the tedium out of quantities. It doesn't produce a bill of quantities at the press of a button, but because of its ability to link with the schedules, to provide area, to provide data on steel or whatever it is, it can certainly reduce the time to allow the team to be better equipped to give cost information with more time to do something about it. Of course, the staff need to be trained, and the big thing for the QS profession, it's a cultural shift that's required because perhaps it's more radical in the adoption of new techniques. So you can use the software to give you the length of pipe, the number of valves, the weight of steel, and so forth. And the remainder of the slide set, and I'm not going to go through these in great detail, but in the pack are the benefits that each one of these disciplines can see for themselves on a project, but some of the actions. So let's just take time to highlight just a couple. So from the project manager, and the reason I think that these are important is the fact that the greater the team are engaged in utilizing and exploring and understanding the tools and what they offer, the greater the benefits that accrue. If a project manager doesn't really understand what BIM is all about, and thinks of it as something left to the design manager because it's a design thing that's done with the consultants in the corner, some kind of black box mystery, they won't lever the benefits of looking at how the tools can simulate construction processes, how it could optimize the program, and how it could give him and his team greater confidence in their delivery plans. So he should see that there's an execution plan in place, making sure that there's the appropriate resources, internally or externally delivered, and the expertise to deliver to him or her the benefits that they're seeking. The team should buy in. They should see that they have the training and equipment as necessary, that all the scopes for the supply chain and designers are aligned, and then you can really unlock the potential. So operational methodology is now around the BIM models. Planners can use it to demonstrate the program, to minimize risk, to look at alternatives, and I think you've all seen various iterations of a plan. Hopefully this will link. It's just a little slow today. Hopefully this is coming through, Barry. The beauty of this is not so much as a construction tool, this particular illustration. This was used to illustrate a project to planning departments, highways departments, local retailers, market traders, to understand the sequence of events that would take away an existing market hall and replace it with a shiny new one, and the impact on the locality and the environment. So these phasing tools, these simulation techniques can have a multiplicity of purposes. Commercial Manager, you can take the areas that are linked to the BIM models and the schedules, giving him time saving in data measurement and accuracy. For instance, we did an exercise recently where I heard of a subcontractor who was providing scaffolding, came with a quote which is far higher than anticipated. We used the BIM model to check areas of measurement, and he provided we provided a takeoff of X, shall we say, against the subcontractor's takeoff of X plus a bit. We illustrated where we'd done this on the areas that we'd come back to, and this was accepted by the subcontractor, and it reduced the package by £50,000. Not bad for 2 days modelling work. So Procurement Manager, integrating with a supply chain can aid the understanding of the scheme, and it can provide confidence that we can help meet the government standard mandate that all the data will be provided. And yeah, the Procurement Manager has to be able to procure, understand what scopes to give out to the supply chain, so it doesn't artificially increase scope packages. If they don't produce BIM models, they at least need to provide the relevant data, which we can streamline into a slick process. So increasingly the number of the supply chain members who are BIM literate, ready to go, are helping us move forward. And as I talked about before, you can utilize color coding to demonstrate package interfaces. And from a design manager, some design managers become the information manager or BIM manager, but for them, working with the designers, it helps them spot issues earlier and have time to do something about it, helps the sign-off process, and it enables more things to be done right first time. Yes, they need training, they need the right software and hardware, and they need to understand the models and protocols. So I think I'm coming towards an end. There's something that every document controller can benefit with. The quality managers, it's easier to get quality reports to aid sign-off. You can put your quality documents on a field device, get the teams to sign off. Some of our projects where we have site devices, those using them save at least half a day a week because they have everything they need in their hand. Yes, they need training. Yes, there's a process to go through to integrate the site tools such as diaries or the snagging process, but it's worth the investment. So it helps with logistics integration, tracking progress, workforce plannings, as well as giving you access to all the documents and specs. And for some of our projects, we even have to put barcodes on every cable, and that's the real forensic BIM. But it can be used as a quality tool to the nth degree, shall we say on a nuclear scale, if necessary. So a site agent can utilize Field 360, for instance, to record the snags, integrate and interface with supply chain. It can help utilize sequencing, packages and installation setting out, provided he invests his time in understanding how to view models and how to use the tools available. So whether these are on buildings or roads or other sites, there are benefits for the relevant staff. And work winning, demonstrating that you can meet the government's mandate, demonstrate to clients that you can help them lever the 30 or so benefits, as well as the benefits that are brought to the project team themselves. So whether it's use of a full 3D immersive cave or utilizing the BIM models through a project screen on site for the 6-week look-ahead meetings, the more people that are engaged in this exercise using these tool sets, from the sustainability manager to the project manager, from the designer to the client, the greater you'll see the benefits to everyone on site, during design, from a client's point of view, a quality of delivery, the efficiency of a tender process, and the quality of information available to help with the running of a project. We talked about the link between design to fabrication, constructability, and for the safety manager, simulate key risks. You can attach those risks to the program, whether they're risks associated with only 6 weeks work or whether they're residual risks for the whole program. All that can be made available, the ultimate resulting in fewer risks and less likely of incidents. Yes, they've got to learn how to view models and how to articulate their requirements. So here's an example of safety models linked to the program, linked with a hyperlink to a CDM register and other data. And those work zones, safety simulations can be not only to do with the building, but also can be to do with work zones, whether they're crane and jib radii, or whether they're work zones for different contractors. And temporary works, if you can integrate your temporary works also in BIM, it's another risk that is mitigated and dealt with earlier. So, final slide. I hope this has been useful. So, what is your vision? So, look at this selfishly. What are the key problems and issues that you face on a project or in the design, construction, cost, planning, or other aspects? What tool sets are available to help you? What efficiencies do you think can be achieved? And then set some goals and objectives to realize those. You might need training, you might need software, some hardware, you might need to change some processes. But all in all, and of course I'm biased, the investment is worth making that change and investment in both time and kit, because the return on investment is substantial. So are you willing to make that change, and what you have to do? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. On behalf of everybody, thank you. We have had quite a few questions come in, quite a few new ones, and obviously the ones that are asked prior to the webinar. Many architects feel that BIM requires them to do more work up front, but fees, timescales and traditional work stages don't account for that. Any view on this?
I can only play back conversations that I've had with architects who say to me they'll never look back, they'll never change. I can't, we all have to accept there's an investment of time and training in software. Can't get away from that. But for those who've invested, yes, it might mean doing things a little bit more upfront, but once you've created your library is there. So perhaps the first project isn't as efficient in time saving as you'd like it to be, but the stories I've had from various practices is by the second or third job they are realizing significant increases in project efficiency, being able to develop the design, get increasing comment and buy-in from the client, be able to develop their drawings, schedules and production information with higher quality, greater consistency in the shortest time period. I wouldn't say it's a complete reinvention of their working cycle. We do have the level of detail to work to, so there is a time and place for felt pen sketches, for conceptual work versus the detail. But I think that is manageable.
Another one here. How much work should an MEP designer do in BIM before handing over to subcontractor? Should the design be 100% coordinated, stroke clash-free, if subcontractor is going to change it anyway?
Well, that's a very good question, and I can understand where they're coming from. I think if it was my project, and I was responsible for the project, I would like to feel that during the design stage, those designing the MEP have looked at the key areas of risk, whether that's the plant room, whether that's pinch points, whether that's the risers or drops. Wherever there's a risk, I would like that coordinated, simulated, integrated and clash-free. But then I would ensure that my following supply chain partners utilize that information as their modus operandi. So they would not be allowed a free-for-all on-site to put pipes and ducts and tubes and cables wherever they wished. They would follow the pattern established. Now, because in a D&B environment, that MEP installing contractor might have variations to a system, might provide a different boiler or slightly different duct, but they would be expected to follow the pattern of work already established. So time wouldn't be wasted, and I would have the confidence that from cradle to grave my project's been coordinated, the work's been integrated, and the end result will be clash-free.
Brilliant. Okay. And how do you engage with subcontractors and supply chain who often have to put most benefit in for least benefit?
We have had a series of workshops, both one-to-one with individual companies, conferences with a gathering of various organizations to illustrate what we'd like to achieve, but also to try and articulate the benefits available to our supply chain. Let's take the government mandate. When we're delivering projects that require contractually to provide the data, then our supply chain will be selected on that basis. So they'll be expected to join the journey and supply the data, if not the BIM models. And we'll help them with that process. There are manufacturers, and we have a number of preferred manufacturers, all of whom have embraced the BIM framework, shall we say, and are able to provide us with components of their items that they manufacture. For those installers, we've encouraged them to be able to utilize the models to animate how they're going to work, the sequences, and to bring in manufacturers and other data when necessary. So it's horses for courses. It is a journey, and there is still a long way to go before all of the supply chain are BIM literate. But we'll work with those who are willing to work with us, and those who've adopted BIM as an integral part of the process will have so much the advantage as we come to an increasing number of level 2 projects.
Sure. Okay. And do you think that the benefits of BIM are enhanced in types of contracts that have early contractor involvement, like design, build, or PPP or IPD?
They do. I personally believe that they do, because perhaps one of the main reasons for early involvement of a contractor is to engage the supply chain.
Sure.
where you can engage the piling specialist, the M&E consultant, whoever it is from the supply chain installing world, and get their input. That has to be good, but I am biased. But nevertheless, on a traditional project, we've seen equally good results where a client has come to us on one of our projects and said, we've done all the design, we now just want Balfours to build. That's probably not our standard way of doing things, but on the framework agreement we accepted that. But there wasn't a single clash on site. The project finished exactly on time and to budget. And a similar non-BIM project by others finished 3 weeks later.
Wow.
So it's a testimonial to the team and to the client that BIM gives an added confidence and assurance to a quality delivery.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Does the average client have systems in place to use BIM content at handover?
Sweeping statement if I said no, they don't.
Right.
Some clients, let's say Crossrail, have got a very well documented system. They know exactly what they want, what to ask for. They vet each of the BIM execution plans, they provide protocols and data, and they RAG score all of their teams and their participants. But not all clients are like that. Many clients are developing processes, and some are even reluctant to change any existing processes to embrace the potential of BIM. Not much we can do about that, only to share what is possible and available if they're willing to embrace new ways of thinking.
Okay. And another one here. Do we need a stage 2 EIR for clients when there is no contractor appointed earlier on in the project?
I think that's a good thing. Just as if you follow the PAS recommendations, when they talk about BIM execution plan, there's often 2 stages. One that's issued with a pre-tender, and then a post-contract BIM execution plan. Similarly, you might have a set of EIRs that relate to pre-contractor involvement and post. But I think most things could probably be captured in a good set of EIRs if a client knows what to ask for. But the stages in which your requirements would be delivered will be dependent on your procurement route and when you appoint your designers and supply chain.
Sure. Okay, fantastic. Another question here. As a contractor, do you find that you have to create BIM of designs done in 2D, and is it worth your while?
A fundamental part of what we would say are requirements for starting a BIM project would be the design is done in 3D.
Sure.
That's pretty well, a 98% rule. There are a couple of instances where we have had to create 3D because the client hasn't commissioned the designers to do it, but the project size, risk profile, value, complexity have led us to the business case that we should do that. And one client came to us demanding level 2 contractual, but hadn't commissioned any of their designers to do work in other than 2D. So it's not the most efficient way of dealing with it. It's not our choice, but occasionally we would translate a 2D into 3D.
Okay, fantastic. Andy's asked a question. Can you achieve the same level of detail as CAD drawings? And what do you need to get in place before you can actually claim to be BIM compliant to use in a project setting?
Okay, well, first question. Yeah. Most of BIM information for most clients is drawn in the final level of detail equivalent to a 1/50th scale, from which that information is then used to produce CAD drawings. So, for instance, on most projects you wouldn't draw the damp-proof course, you wouldn't draw the mastic seals around the windows, you wouldn't draw the screw heads and so forth. And you'd still have a CAD drawing output for the final detail. Now, you can do all the details using BIM, and you can get to a stage without drawings, but I think that's probably too advanced for most of us in our current state of the journey.
Sure.
It is possible. Nuclear clients require a complete forensic level of detail with quality assurance tags to the metal bracket that supports the TV on the wall.
Of course, yeah.
Who made it? Who validated it? Who signed it off? Because of the safety issues associated with working in a nuclear environment.
Sure.
So you've got the capability, but at the moment most teams still use drawings, and the level of detail is just as thorough as in a CAD setup.
Okay, fantastic.
I probably didn't answer the second question.
Yes, thank you. I'll put my glasses on.
Can you remind me?
I think, actually. What do you need to get in place before you can actually claim to be BIM compliant to use in a project setting?
Oh, the BIM compliant. It depends on how you define BIM compliance. We started our first BIM project probably 4 years ago, and we simply said to the designers, you're designing a recognized 3D environment. And that particular project, it was Revit. Yeah. And we would utilize Navisworks for simulating a program, providing clash detection, visual detection, and looking at construction methodologies. So each of the designers, architect, MEP, CNS, did their bit. We brought it together, coordinated the models for our own construction purposes. We would call that a BIM project. We didn't set levels of excellence and expertise, and we all learned. So the principle I would say is you've got to start somewhere. Yeah. Now, 70 BIM projects later, those project teams who are on their second or third BIM project are probably more demanding, and quite rightly so, sure, and are less forgiving of the BIM novices. But we do recognise that our success is very much depending on working collaboratively successful with our designers and supply chain partners. So we try and be patient and recognise everybody's on a journey. And we do have a level of assessment whereby we can do CAD tests, or we can ask for documentation, such as the PAS requirements indicate. Get your IT, get your designers and others to provide their IT, their BIM protocols, and resource, the number of people they've got who's trained, recognised training regimes to give you confidence that you've got the right team in place. Sure. I hope that helps.
Yeah, fantastic, thank you. Some more questions. How do you envision the role of information manager developing over the couple of years? Would contractors like to take it in-house, or would it be best to outsource the role and add it as a construction cost?
Well, I think we'd like the choice, actually. Okay. I think we recognise that we have to provide that role, that function, shall we say, yeah, where it's a contractual requirement, and we then can train or recruit our own people, but there might be times where we particularly might want to outsource that because of, I don't know, a timescale requirement, a project need, or all our particular resources are fully engaged. So it'd be good to know that there are people externally that can provide that service, and I know that there are.
Sure, fantastic. Question from the same person, Chris. Will main contractors develop bespoke sets of data requirements above national standards to provide added value to clients in downstream FM services?
I think that's a personal choice for the contractor. I can't speak for all my colleagues, but I can tell you that one or two of our projects we are developing a particular FM app that will be given to our clients as part of an added value offering. So we've chosen to go down that route, not necessarily for every project.
Sure.
And I think others can take that view. Because not all clients require COBE, not all clients require the kind of PAS requirements, but most of them are looking to utilize, if we've done BIM throughout the project, how can they take advantage of it to help them in their life cycle and asset management. It might be feeding the data into their existing FM package, or it might be providing supplementary data to go alongside their existing systems, but they don't want to invest in expensive software or have expensive training regimes. So we focus on what data is available in simple to read, easy to understand formats, and we offer them some overview training to help them get started.
Thank you. So a third question from the same person. Are main contractors pushing their product supply chain towards the creation of NBS object standard compliant families?
Are they? I can't speak for all my colleagues. I know some of them point them in direction, but others, like ourselves, say to our supply chain or manufacturers, we need your data and we need your products, please. There are a number of organizations that can do it, or you might choose to do it yourself, and we don't stipulate a single scenario.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. I'm reading through them here. With Peter being from a contractor's background, it'd be interesting to hear what he thinks of EIRs. Do we need a stage 2 EIR process, one for design and one for construction? And as this whole process falls down when there is no contractor appointed early on a contract?
I think we touched on this a little earlier. Just as you get two
apologies, no, yes, we did. We did. I'm running through them. However, I must have copied and pasted. Okay.
All right. So, okay, you've got the answer to that one.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So a different one. Then, how has BIM helped collaboration? How can PIM be converted to AIM?
Okay. Asset information model. Well, hopefully, in some of the examples that you've seen, how it can aid collaboration. The big thing for us is the cultural willingness of organisations to share what they've got on a regular basis. I have to say there's been reluctance on some designers who are not confident in the quality of their model making, shall we say, model making that is, to share. And there's some clients, perhaps influenced by their advisors or the designers, who have refused to share models at tender stage. Worries about, I don't know, intellectual property or whatever, but they're using it for the tender, for that specific building project, and we respect that and comply with that. So our encouragement to all would be share what you have when you have it on a regular basis. It helps us all in that integration and development process.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you only have to have it fully right, excuse the poor English, when it's issued for construction. And there's greater confidence the earlier that you share information. And the aim is, well, if you've got your relevant data and you have defined what assets are important to the client, there could be 12, there could be 850, and you've defined the information, the technical information that you need for each asset, then it's much more easier to go into an asset information model in whatever format the client needs.
Okay, fantastic. I think that there's a couple more questions. If you do have any questions, please again don't hesitate to throw them to the right. I'm just scrolling down this list here. Quite a few of these have been answered already. Please explain how to handle decision making, tasking, and communications, as we often see these as the weakest links, psychologically over technical, if you like. How Peter sees the industry going in terms of data transfer, i.e. Kobe. Can we talk about his history working with data drops, their real effectiveness, and if in the future they will be more or less useful as the software develops? Your experience of BIM libraries, pros and cons. I believe they are so useful. But
there's about 5 questions there.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, decision making.
Yeah.
I think that just comes down to something that we go through in our BIM execution plan workshop. We have the whole team, all the stakeholders assembled, including the client, and we make sure we know who is doing what. Who's doing the models for the staircases, for the grids, who's doing setting the coordinates, who's doing the doors, who's doing the secondary steelwork, etc., etc. And then the decision making falls on, first of all, the author for that particular piece of work, and then secondly, the person who is bringing that all together. So, for instance, we still appoint our lead designer to be responsible for the integration and collaboration of spatial collaboration of all the other disciplines, whether they're provided in 2D or 3D. We, as a project manager, if you like, construction manager for the project, will have ultimate decision on supply chain, how we're going to erect and how we're going to develop the project. So I think decision making is relatively quite straightforward, but you resolve that and the roles and the responsibilities in your BIM execution plan.
Sure.
In terms of data drops, whilst we're delivering several level 2 BIM projects, the clients for those have only requested the data to be provided at the handover. Mm-hmm. We are showing them some test data, what it looks like, how they're going to get it, what formats, during the process, but we haven't had a client yet who wanted data drop 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But I don't think, provided that's scoped in detail in the BIM execution plan, what level of detail they need, what data they need for what assets, that should be straightforward.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think one more here as well. You were just touching on BIM level 2. Gavin's so keen to get this answered, he's asked it 3 times. Where is Balfour Beatty in relation to BIM level 3?
Well, that's interesting, and we have had some clients who said, can you do level 7?
Well.
and we politely said, if you can tell us what you mean by level 7, we can tell you whether we can do it or not. And I think that would be the same. We've had some who say, your competitors is offering level 3 for this project. Can you do it? Well, I would simply say, and on a serious note, level 3 hasn't been, to my knowledge, fully defined yet by the government.
Sure. It's a few months away, isn't it? Yeah, I believe.
We envisage it will be everybody working simultaneously on a collaborative basis on a single model, etc. But that's speculation, so it's not been defined. So if somebody said, can you do level 3, we would say, let us understand what you mean by level 3, and then we'll prepare to deliver it on that basis.
Sure.
You know, this isn't being arrogant, but whatever our clients have asked for, we have found a way of being able to deliver it.
Brilliant.
So we personalise the offer to our client, which is all about contracting.
Sure.
Client wants a scheme, and that's what we are there to provide.
Delivery.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I think we can draw a close now. Thank you, Peter. There's loads of people saying thank you in the box here. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure from my behalf. And yeah, thank you ever so much. For all of you guys that don't have the slides, I will, if you can send me an email to webinars@bimrec.com, I shall make sure that you get them. However, this will be recorded.
No, thank you for the opportunity, Barry. If anybody wants to email me with a particular question, I'll try and respond.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everybody else. I hope this has been useful, and speak to you soon. Oh, please do look forward to additional webinars coming soon as well. Take care, everybody. Thank you again, Peter. Thank you ever so much.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.